Core 4 Elite 8 rolls on, and today we are talking about the game. Michigan, Ohio State, Ryan Day 1-4 against the Wolverines. This is a huge game anyway you slice it. I don't care. I know Michigan fans, I know Ohio State fans do not care that they won a national championship last year. They want to beat Michigan, and they're going to have an opportunity going into this weekend for them to do it. I am Greg Launer. This is Chatted Up Sports. Follow us all over social media and listen to all of our other game previews up on Spotify, YouTube, all the good places where we get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, all that as well. Joining me to this way, what is that, my left or right? I don't know.
Right.
On the virtual screen. One of the
on
ways.
The other side of the screen.
On the other side of the screen, over that way, if you're watching on the video version of it. Joseph Guthrie, the college football guru himself. What's up, Jay?
What up, Greg? How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Just enjoying the holiday time with the family and being home, getting out of Alabama a little bit, which is nice, and getting to the great state of North Carolina. So happy to be here and excited to talk a little bit about this matchup this weekend as well. This game is going to be at Michigan as well. So that's going to add a little bit extra to this. Obviously, Michigan beat Ohio State last year in the shoe. So first and foremost, Joseph, there are a lot of different scenarios going on around the conference to see who's going to play in the conference title game. Talk to me a little bit about some of these scenarios, because if Michigan wins this game, they are technically still alive to get a chance to go play in the conference championship game. And that there's also a world that you said that even if Ohio State loses this game, these two teams could end up facing each other in the conference title game as well. Talk to me.
Yes, so there's on Big10.org, there's 7 scenarios left for the Big Ten title game. There's the most obvious one, Indiana or Ohio State. Both teams win. Indiana beats Purdue. Ohio State beats Michigan. We're both 10-0 in the conference, or 9-0 in the conference. Boom, Big Ten title game. That's the easy, that's the predicted one, because Indiana's a massive favorite over Purdue. Ohio State's, I believe, opened as a double-digit favorite over Michigan. Now I think it's sitting at 9.5, something like that. But scenario 2 is where it gets a little bit interesting. It's actually Indiana versus Oregon. So if Ohio State was to lose to Michigan again, and then Oregon ends up beating Washington, Oregon would actually get the nod over Michigan because of a better overall conference opponent's record. And we'd have Indiana and Oregon in a rematch in the Big Ten title game. Scenario 3 is Indiana and Michigan, but that requires, obviously, Michigan to beat Ohio State. Washington would have to beat Oregon at that point. That would give us Indiana and Michigan. We have Oregon and Michigan, which would require Purdue beating Indiana and Michigan beating Ohio State and Oregon beating Washington. So scenario 5 feels like it might be like a plus 4,000 odds there. So if you want to parlay that and hope for scenario 5, we wish you nothing but the best of luck, because Purdue's catching about 28.5. But it's still a reality to get Oregon, Michigan. They'd both be 8-1 in the conference. Obviously, Michigan gets the nod over Ohio State, and then Oregon would get the nod over Indiana if Indiana lost to Purdue. And then our last weird scenario, because there's several scenarios in here that are just the same teams with different things happening. There's 2 scenarios for Ohio State, Indiana, where it's like Purdue beats Indiana, but Washington beat Oregon, so it'd still be Indiana, and Ohio State beat Michigan. But Michigan and Ohio State actually have a chance to play each other twice in back-to-back weeks, but it requires Purdue to beat Indiana, Michigan to beat Ohio State, and Washington to beat Oregon. So, I mean, if we're talking about parlays, that last one being plus 4,000, this one might be like plus 9,000, because Indiana Indiana losing as a 28.5 point favorite, Michigan beating Ohio State, and Washington beating Oregon just sounds like total chaos. And the last time I checked, this was not the ACC, so I don't think that's going to happen. But that's a couple of the Big Ten championship scenarios that are still laid out and possible for the Big Ten title game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens for sure. At this point, when we're recording this on Tuesday, Ohio State is a 9.5 point favorite. I'll be honest with you. Look, I was kind of like, we watched Ohio State and you've watched Michigan this year. I know that Ohio State's given up 7.5 points per game, which is insane defensively. But you look over their schedule, and let's be honest, Jay, like it hasn't been that daunting outside of having to go play Texas in that first game at home. Julian Sain kind of getting his feet wet and everything, and they're coming off the national championship that you don't want to call it a hangover, but they held Texas to 7 points. And at that point, it seemed like, man, like that's a great job. But as we've seen Texas go this year, their offense isn't anything special, nothing really to write home about. So you look at the rest of their games, and they've only given up double-digit points 4 times this season. And the most points they've given up in a game is 16. So are we looking at somebody that this team in Ohio State that's incredibly dominant defensively, or are we looking at a team that has had a pretty favorable schedule that's allowed them to have that type of, I guess, that type of success defensively?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a mix of both, if I had to guess here, because, and to address that Illinois game, I believe that last touchdown that made it 16 was like a garbage time touchdown. So I like it, that's their highest point total for the year. And it's like, do you even really, the game was well in hand? Do you even really want to hold it? I mean, I know it counts against them from the stat total, but no, I think it's a mix of both, man. I think if you watch what they do and you watch how they get broken down on by like Nick Saban and some of the film guys on YouTube, they're really talented. And Matt Patricia's done a really good job at making sure his guys are in the right spot and playing well. But at the same time, looking at who they've played, and I'm using College Football Nerds, their rankings for scoring offense, Washington is the best scoring offense they've played this year, and they're ranked 26th. Behind them at 38th is Texas. And that's certainly been as of lately, because that was not what we thought Texas was going to be after we watched them through their first couple of games. And then lo and behold, therefore the third best offense that they're going to have played this year in a scoring margin is Michigan at 29.27 points per game. So like, I think it's a mix of, I really think they're super talented and I think they're really good defensively. But again, I don't think they've been pushed. That doesn't mean that they'll get pushed this weekend, because Michigan's fighting some battles on the injury standpoint. Justice Haynes is out for this game, so they're going to have to lean on Jordan Marshall. And then Bryce Underwood, just from a perspective of weapons on the outside, Michigan is definitely lacking this year. I mean, they've got some things with Donovan McCulley, but he's a little bit inconsistent. Andrew Marsh has been nice this year. Samaj Morgan is more of a name. He has 214 receiving yards on the year. So that's the thing for me, is if Ohio State can manage to bottle up this run game and they can keep Jordan Marshall in check, who's going to help Bryce Young out? Or who's going to help Bryce Underwood out? Sorry, Bryce Young on the brain from Monday Night Football last night. Who's going to help Bryce Underwood out? Like, all that to say, you can sit here and bring that up and talk about it, but we've watched worse Michigan teams beat better Ohio State teams. We watched it last year. I mean, that Michigan team from last year could not complete a forward pass. They might as well have just started running the triple option at some point, and they managed to beat Ohio State. So it's kind of like, when you get to the game and it means as much as it does, and especially because this game's in Ann Arbor, you kind of throw all that out the window, because it's like, can Ohio State overcome this, what appears to be like a mental edge that Michigan has had over them the past few years? And are we going to finally see Ryan Day move away from trying to play this bully up north Michigan physicality football, and it's like, hey, just play Ohio State football and you'll probably run away with this game? I don't know. I mean, that's the big question for me as we go into this game.
You know, as the guy who's obviously been around a while in Ryan Day, and he's taken over that program and he's done really, really well, winning a national championship last year, you would think at some point, after losing 4 out of 5 matchups against them, that you would want to do something different. You would do something different. Now, this Michigan team, for my money, is much better than what it was last year. And like you said, they went into the shoe and they beat Ohio State. So to me, if I'm looking to pick this game, it's just, this to me is probably the most difficult one to pick, because our logical smart brain says, oh, well, Ohio State is the undefeated team. They've obviously had a better season. They were national championships from last year, champions from last year. Julian Sain's been really good. The defense has been great. Everything points to Ohio State's way, except that mental edge that we just talked about that Michigan seems to have over Ohio State, and it's in Ann Arbor. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, I want to believe that at some point Ryan Day is going to figure this thing out, and they will beat Michigan like they should. Again, 9.5-point favorites. But in my heart, I just have some pause about it.
Yeah, and you should do. Like, I'm sitting in the exact same boat because you're looking at somebody who last year was holding an Ohio State minus 20.5 ticket and just watched that go up in smoke, dude. I mean, like, they put that line out there, 20.5. I was like, bro, this is easy. This is a 4-touchdown game at minimum. Like, I got punked. I got punked by Vegas. I got punked by Ryan Day. I got punked by that Ohio State team because the moment that happened, I was like, I don't know if I can bet on this team going into the playoffs. And then they just wood chippered everybody else they played. And so
it's like, is Ashton Kutcher? Where is he? Is he somewhere here? Like,
yeah. I'm like, who? Okay, guys. What?
Where's the
okay,
hidden camera?
you got me. You got me. Okay, can we play the actual game now? How did Ohio State lose? But no, I'm with you, dude. Like, looking at this game, looking at the stat profiles, looking at the players, the rosters, everything in me is like, it's Ohio State. There's no way you lose this game. And then they did it last year. Like, some of those other Michigan teams with like JJ McCarthy and Blake Corum and the Miles Graham and the defense, like, I get it. The roster was much better for Michigan in those years. It was much closer to what Ohio State was marching out on the field. Last year, it was not. And this year, it probably is, because last year there was such a galaxy between those rosters, in my opinion, that this year it's like, well, the teams are closer, but I still want to pick Ohio State to win. But can I? Can I make myself do it? Can I beat my head against this Ohio State wall for the 5th year in a row and say, you are the better team, you should win this game? Because there's something in me that just thinks like, okay, all those guys that were on that team last year, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and I know they weren't starters as much, but Sonny Styles, Igbinosun, like, they've got to have that, like, we should not have lost to that team last year. There's no way. So I expect to get some kind of inspired effort here. And damn it, like they say the definition of insanity is, I can't do it, dude. I can't bring myself to pick this Michigan team. I just can't. I don't like that Justice Haynes is out. I don't like that they can't consistently throw the ball well enough. But at the same time, it didn't matter last year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like you're saying all these things and it seems so logical, but I'm just thinking, like, the way I feel like this game is going to go is that, yes, Ohio State comes into it, obviously the heavier favorite, and we're going to get into it. And it's like, all right, it's going to be like a heavyweight fight. We're going to be kind of just feeling each other out. There's not going to be a lot of scoring. Maybe there will be a punch thrown, but Michigan will hang around and hang around and hang around. And then before you know it, it's the third, fourth quarter, and we've got a 1-score game. And it's like, oh, crap.
That plays exactly into what Michigan wants, because that's how it happened last year.
Yeah.
Like, I think if this game, in my opinion, if Ohio State doesn't come out and throw the punch early or respond if a punch is thrown early, like if Michigan scripted drive, 16 plays, marches down there, gets a touchdown, you're in a hole on the road, what's your mentality? How do you respond? Because that next drive, how Ohio State responds will tell me everything I need to know about how that game's going to go for the afternoon. If they respond, or if they get on the board first, I feel really good about Ohio State. If we make it to the second quarter and it's Michigan like 7-3, I feel like it's going to set in, dude. It's going to set in for all the Ohio State fans. It's going to set in on that sideline. It's happening again.
Is there any part of you that believes that it's actually better that this game is in Ann Arbor compared to Ohio State? That way there's not like sort of like that extra pressure on you, because if you get down at home again, it's like you can feel that nervous energy, and the whole fan base is kind of like bearing down on your sideline like, holy crap, like we're in this situation again. Like, stop, don't blow it. Don't lose to Michigan again.
No, I don't. And it's because Julian Sayan's a first-year starter, and he hasn't been in an environment like he's about to be in. And at least if you're down to Michigan at home, yeah, you might feel like the stadium's going to feel uneasy, but I don't think that's as bad as the stadium feeling like everybody there is against you, because they're going to be, especially being a first-year starting quarterback like Julian Sayan is. And I know it's hard to say that. He's 11 games in. He's kind of like, hey, you got 11 starts under your belt. Are we really going to consider you a first-year starter anymore? Like, you kind of know what's going on here. You've played enough games. You've played a good amount of football.
He's still a first-year starter though, and as you mentioned, like he hasn't been in this environment yet. So like, he's not seasoned to that degree.
No, don't get me wrong. That's no disrespect to Washington on the road. That's no disrespect to, I believe they played Illinois on the road as well. Like,
they did, yeah.
There's nothing. Washington, from everything I've heard, is a phenomenal environment. It's a place I'd love to go watch a football game. It's different than what Michigan's going to give Ohio State on Saturday, because that's not just a road game. That's the road game. And I can't bring myself to pick Michigan. I feel like I should be on the opposite and be like, I can't bring myself to pick Ohio State because I got to see them do it. Kind of like where I'm at with Georgia, Bama. It's like, until you do it, I got to see you do it. I'm not taking that route because this roster they're too good. They're too good. And when they lose this game and I get clipped on the Michigan boards and I end up being like laughed at, you know what? I deserve it, because I just can't do it, man. I can't bring myself to pick Michigan. So give me Ohio State. I'm not taking them to cover. They win by 3. And it's an absolute, you know what? They kick a game-winning field goal to win by 2, and it's a sweater. Give me Ohio State 23-20.
I think something you said earlier in the show, in this episode, kind of has sat with me about Ryan Day. He tried to kind of play a different style of football last year when they played Michigan. Kind of tried to beat him at that, up north ground and pound, like tough nose. And then they went to the playoffs and they just, again, sliced everybody.
Yep.
I feel like you learned something from that. Don't ask me why, but I just have a feeling that Ohio State is going to come out, like you mentioned, and just start throwing punches, really playing into what they do well and find a way to score first, get a stop, and then score again. And at that point, that's going to make it real tough for Michigan, as you alluded to, with the ineptitude of weapons that they have in terms of running back and on the outside with wide receiver Bryce Underwood. As much as Sherrone Moore wants to talk about how he doesn't get rattled and he's young, he's cool under pressure and the whole thing, he just doesn't have the weapons that Julian Sayan does and that Ohio State does. And it's going to make it very difficult. I saw that man struggle, and I get it. I know it was in the road across the country at USC, struggle at USC, who's not generally known for their defense. So I'm with you. I'm going to take Ohio State. I know you generally have to see it, but I feel differently about this year's Ohio State team. I'm hoping that Ryan Day has really learned his lesson and that they'll go out there and put boot to ass and take care of business.
I mean, every Ohio State fan is saying from our lips to God's ears, brother, because they're hoping. They're hoping it happens.
Yes. So are we. I'm interested to hear if any of the other boys are going to take Michigan. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody did take Michigan, because much like you mentioned with Georgia and Alabama, kind of got to see it first. So if I had to guess, I'd say probably Drew would take Michigan. Maybe he might take Michigan.
Bro, Drew is all on the maize and blue.
Of course.
There ain't no way that man's picking Ohio State.
No chance. Anyways, follow us on social media, again, at Chatted Up Sports, and listen to our Core 4 Elite 8 games. Again, we're kind of doing these in smaller spurts for you. So if you want to listen to a specific game, check us out all over Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube as well. And follow us, like, subscribe, all that good stuff on social media. Joseph and I will be back for another game. Not Ohio. We just talked about Ohio, Oregon, and Washington.